The WrestleMania that crammed in so much, yet so many people were left out of WrestleMania. Oh my goodness, this show was just too damn long. 5.5 hours, not counting the pre show. It is just ridiculous. Just the amount of time they just had on this show. It is just like, because you actually start off pretty good. The first half of the show is like a pretty solid WrestleMania, but then the show just kept going and going and going, and it really bunks down everything because man, they just try to cram in so much. They even had guest Hall of Fame commentators for a good chunk of the matches. Yet this show did not have Kevin Owens, Asuka, the Hardy Boys, Braun Strowman. They almost didn't have Shinsuke Nakamura and Rusev. They threw them in there last minute. We'll explain that later. There was just so much in this show, and I'm just like, yo, there was like just way too much going on, and yet they really heavily focused on the part timers. The only real standout matches, to be honest, were the three world title matches, the women's one, and the two men ones. Those were the only matches that really had somewhat of care, and they were heavily built around those matches. But the rest of the card was, well, you had some good matches, but then you had some just dull, boring, too long of a match. We had a lot of short matches, and yet the show felt so long. I don't get how you do that, but let's just talk about it. Taking place in MetLife Stadium, where SummerSlam will be taking place this year in 2025. Yolanda Adams kicks off America the Beautiful. Pretty good with the choir and everything. We really kick off the night with Alexa Bliss as the host of WrestleMania. Now, Alexa Bliss is actually very charismatic, very good on the microphone, but somehow she managed to be so boring. I forgot she was even the host when I watched this. I'm like, oh yeah, Alexa Bliss was hosting WrestleMania at this point. She talks about when she snaps her fingers, precursor to Thanos. Uh, she can make a WrestleMania moment. Sure enough, she snaps her finger. Hulk Hogan comes out, makes the same Superdome um, joke that's been milked to death up to this point. This was Hulk Hogan's first appearance at WrestleMania since 31 when he helped Sting and failed. But then, after all those promos and America the Beautifuls, we get our first official match on the main show, Brock Lesnar versus Seth Rollins. I love Paul Heyman walking into Real American by Hulk Hogan, not giving a care in the world. He says, well, if we're not going to close, then we might as well open. We're not going to waste everybody's time. We got better things to take care of. We are signing a deal in Las Vegas where Brock Lesnar was more appreciated. So, Brock Lesnar, Seth Rollins, we're kicking it off with the Universal title picture. Brock Lesnar comes out, then Seth Rollins comes out. Brock Lesnar beats up Seth Rollins, and then as the bell rings, Seth Rollins gets the upper hand, low blowing Brock Lesnar when the ref ain't looking. Curb stomps, just a bunch of moves where Seth Rollins is doing his best to beat the beast, and then eventually Seth Rollins gets the victory. He is your new Universal Champion. I like this. I know at the time people were confused because the match was really short, but this didn't need to go super long. We eventually get that lengthy match later at SummerSlam, which was a really good match. But I'm happy that Seth Rollins got his moment. We all thought this was the end of Brock Lesnar. There was rumors that he was going to UFC. Spoilers, he doesn't. But this was really cool, and I like the story of like nobody from the Shield could beat Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania until Seth Rollins came along. So Seth Rollins was the first man to ever pin Brock Lesnar at a WrestleMania. So that tells you the amount of trust that they had in Seth Rollins. Eventually, he messed it up. He had to turn heel to revitalize his entire character and career. And we'll talk maybe if I continue reviewing shows of WWE, I can talk about Seth Rollins' run as the Universal Champion, whether you want to see that or not. But for the most part, I love the moment. Too bad the title reign of Seth Rollins was not the greatest. It definitely got overshadowed by the fact that this is the same year where we had Kofi Mania and the Man. Jerry the King Lawler being the first Hall of Famer to be a guest commentator. Side note, they kept moving around the commentators too much. There was a brief period where Michael Cole was not commentating, and I'm not gonna lie, even though this wasn't the revitalized Michael Cole that we love today, it does feel weird not having him on commentary for a good chunk of these matches. But it was good to see Jerry the King Lawler come back, and he ended up commentating a really good match between Randy Orton and AJ Styles, the face of SmackDown for a brief period versus the face of SmackDown at this point in WWE. I really enjoyed this match. It was a really good back and forth, and it was pretty well put together. They started their feud inside the Elimination Chamber. They worked their way up to WrestleMania, and I really enjoyed it. Just a good back and forth of two well established stars, and it's kind of a dream match. What is it with AJ Styles having matches against all the veterans? He faces Chris Jericho, Shane McMahon, Randy Orton here. Next year he faces The Undertaker, and then eventually he faces Edge. I'm shocked he never fought John Cena at WrestleMania. We should have gotten that, honestly, if you think about it. AJ Styles is just a dream match machine. He was a really good wrestler at this point. He did some amazing work, and I was very happy to see this match with him and Randy Orton. They were the best match for a while, and I definitely liked the counters. I really thought Randy Orton was gonna win. This would have been his rejuvenal uh, aura story of him coming back, and then possibly eventually that leads to Randy and Kofi. We do get to Randy and Kofi, but we wait until like the summer to get that match. Plus, AJ winning definitely made him feel like a credible contender when he eventually fights Seth Rollins at the next pay per view. Then we get for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships a fatal four way. The Usos defend the belts against Shinsuke Nakamura and Rusev, The Bar, Aleister Black, and Ricochet. These were a lot of weird thrown together tag teams. I kind of wish that we got in the Hardy Boys here. I know we eventually get Usos versus the Hardy Boys at SmackDown, but that match really should have happened here. But I do like the story of how Usos forfeit to give Kofi Kingston his WrestleMania moment. So as payback, they put him against three random tag teams put together. Shinsuke and Rusev, I understand. I would have had Ricochet and Aleister Black wait. They have a match on NXT anyways, so I don't know why they were so heavily pushing these two as a tag team. They had good chemistry, but they were just better off as single stars. Yeah, it should have been Hardy's Bar and Naka Rusev. With that said, this match was awesome. This was a good back and forth with wrestlers who really care about tag team wrestling. I really enjoyed this, and plus it gave Usos their first WrestleMania victory, so I can't really get mad about it. Really underrated hidden gem in WrestleMania history. But yeah, this was a really good match, and I really like the story of can the Usos retain after beating three tag teams, and sure enough, they did. Good match. Go out of your way and watch this one as well. WWE Hall of Fame class 2019 in the legacy. We have Bruiser Brody. Again, one name that I'm just like, really? He is in the legacy. Luna Vachon, SD Jones. These guys deserve to be on the actual Hall of Fame. This is when I started realizing the Hall of Fame legacy is kind of a joke. They just kind of just throw people just for the sake of not giving them a proper induction. Wahoo McDaniel, Professor Toru Tanaka, Primo Carnera, Joseph Cohen, Hisami Shinma, Buddy Rose, and Jim Barrett. Uh, Yeah, let's talk about the other class. Sue Athison. Hope I said it right, but this was the warrior word, kind of like what we expected that we were gonna get, in the sense of someone who is helping being involved in the WWE, but without actually being like a person in WWE. Like I said, this warrior word should have gone to guys like Jim Johnson and Jimmy Miranda, like the warrior requested. So this is like the first step into that. uh, the Heart Foundation. The unfortunate part is this is the Hall of Fame where some stupid ass jumps in the ring and tries to beat up Bret Hart. Hopefully that guy is in a mental warehouse. Brutus the Barber Beefcake, Tori Wilson, the Honky Tonk Man, and DX. I did like this class. I was a little bit conflicted in the fact that a lot of these guys were already a Hall of Famer. Shawn Michaels became a two-time Hall of Famer because of this. Bret Hart became a two-time Hall of Famer because of this. And Booker T became a two-time Hall of Famer because of this. Not gonna lie, they do deserve it, but them whole throwing a whole faction just for it. And keep in mind, this is 2019 and 2025. We start inducting matches. So I don't know what's going on with the Hall of Fame. They should have just stuck with like individuals. Honestly, this should have been the night where we induct Batista. If I'm being honest, I mean they had him already ready to go. They should have just had him. This was just an excuse so they can put in China in the Hall of Fame without actually being a main part of the Hall of Fame. It's kind of disrespectful now that you think about it. But it was cool to see DX have their big moment here at WrestleMania. But I do deep down wish that China got inducted on her own. And then you could still have DX kind of give her that proper tribute that she really deserves. Let's be honest with ourselves. Shane McMahon defeats The Miz in a false count anywhere match. Remember this feud? Miz needed a father figure because he had daddy issues. So they made Shane McMahon that father figure after he took his spot while being injured in the Best in the World Cup. Shane McMahon being the best in the world. Yeah, this was just oh my goodness. I like heel Shane, and this iteration of babyface Miz was probably the best one. Either this one or the one where he reformed with R-Truth. But I really thought that the Miz was gonna win just based on how they built this match. But this whole match, Miz's dad gets involved. By the way, this just not talk about it because that was awful. This whole match was just the Miz beating up Shane McMahon all the way to the crowd. Does almost 90% of the match, and then there's a part where they're on top of something. Miz throws Shane as they both break onto this like table spot. Shane is on top of the Miz. The referee takes advantage. One, two, three, and Shane McMahon wins, aka the best in the world. This was a really annoying time for Shane McMahon. They were so heavily focused on trying to make good TV because AEW was coming to town, and they heavily pushed Shane McMahon for literally the entire year. Like up to October, we have to deal with Shane McMahon. Oh my goodness, this was a very annoying time to be a fan of WWE's. Plus, AEW was killing it. They just debuted. They took Moxley. They took all this stuff. Another match that I didn't enjoy was the Women's Tag Team Championship Fatal 4-Way match. We just had a Fatal 4-Way for the tag team belts. I really wish it was just Sasha and Bailey versus a tag team. Paige was on commentary. It's Sasha Banks and Bailey, Beth Phoenix and Natalia, the Iconics, and Tamina with Nia Jax. Really boring, just sloppy. Again, this could have worked if we hadn't already gotten a Fatal 4-Way tag team match. The only positive is that the Iconics get their moment. I really wish that they went all out with this tag team division. This is around the time they just threw in the tag team titles just for the sake of throwing women's tag team titles. The Iconics could have been something special as tag team champions. Instead, they were just um, on the sidelines. They weren't even on pre-shows. That is how much care they had for the women's tag team championships around this point. But now we get to the match that everybody talks about when it comes to WrestleMania 35. Daniel Bryan versus Kofi Kingston for the WWE Championship. 11-year journey for Kofi Kingston, doing everything he has done possible, being Intercontinental Champion, United States Champion, multi-time Tag Team Champion with R-Truth, Evan Bourne, and of course the New Day, CM Punk. Well, we don't talk about CM Punk around this time. Kofi Kingston was just it. And then as a last minute replacement for Mustafa Ali on the Elimination Chamber, Kofi Kingston was the MVP of that entire match and was the precursor to Kofi Mania. People were saying Kofi should be WWE champion. This was like it. If he's never going to be WWE champion here, then he'll never get that belt. And man, this story was so strong. I only wish that they had Vince McMahon involvement be more appropriate. It felt like Vince McMahon was just being a racist. I would have loved to have seen him say like, listen, Kofi, this is the best thing you've done. Your work with the New Day is the best work, but there's no way you're gonna be more than that. Instead, Daniel Bryan was the one saying that, calling him a B plus player, even though he was called that 5 years earlier. The story was just top notch. I love Kofi. This was his best promo work ever. Him saying like, you know what this feels like. You know what this moment is, and this is the first time in your life, Daniel Bryan, where you should be scared. And I just love the promos between Daniel Bryan and Kofi. The story. Um, can Kofi Kingston overcome everybody? Can the New Day help out? Usos having that epic rivalry with the New Day. They forfeit to let Kofi Kingston get his moment. That was just amazing. I love the fans in the back watching the match. The back and forth was great. I loved Eric Rowan as a manager. This was probably one of my favorite Eric Rowan runs when he was with Daniel Bryan, the Planet's champion. Daniel Bryan was one of the best heels ever up to this point. The Planet's champion run was my favorite Daniel Bryan world title run. Even better than the AEW one. Hot take, yes. I really love this Daniel Bryan. The fans were fickle. They loved Daniel Bryan, but then they moved on to other people, and they're going to move on from everybody moving forward. So I love this run of Daniel Bryan. Kofi Kingston being one of the most over baby faces that he ever could be. Say what you will how the title run ended, but man, Kofi Kingston getting that moment, the counters. I love that it's become a mini tag team match with Eric Rowan, Big E, and Xavier Woods. Their involvement was great, but the part for me, it was just like so surreal. Kofi Kingston, SOS, or that's the name of the kick, right? He hits his finisher. He actually hits it. I thought that Daniel Bryan was gonna counter it, but no, he doesn't. 1, 2, 3. Kofi Kingston is your new WWE champion. Oh my goodness, this was just a big mark out moment. I was just so happy and so satisfied. Thankfully, they gave it to the right guy. This was the best story they possibly could. They pivoted like crazy for this match. It was supposed to be Bryan and Ali. It was supposed to be Bryan and Owens, but they went with the correct choice. They made it Bryan and Kofi, and they gave us this incredible moment. I don't care what anybody says. This is a 5-star match. I love it to death. It is one of my favorite stories heading into WrestleMania, and you can't go any wrong. And that moment of Big E in the beginning coming with a trophy, like this is for you later, basically spoiling that Kofi was gonna win. They throw away the Planet's championship, and then they bring in the original classic WWE championship that we know up to this point with the Kofi Kingston plates already in there. He celebrates. I'm a little shocked that other wrestlers didn't come to celebrate, but this is really the moment for Kofi Kingston, having his family there. Kofi Mania everywhere. It was just beautiful. And then The rest of the show just special guest commentator Booker T comes in to commentate for Samoa Joe and Rey Mysterio for the United States Championship. Rey Mysterio hits a 619. Samoa Joe reverses it into a sleeper hold. Rey passes out and Samoa Joe has his first and only match at WrestleMania where he beats Rey Mysterio in under a minute. Cool Mysterio look. Spider-Man Far From Home was gonna come out later this year, so pretty cool outfit. But even Booker T was like, "You guys brought me out here for this? Oh, come on, guys! I hated this." Honestly, if they wanted the U.S. title here so badly, they should have just had a multi-man U.S. title ladder match just to throw in some other guys. We could have avoided Shane and Miz. We could have had R-Truth, who was really over around this time. Ali could have had his moment. Like, you could have just had a bunch of guys just thrown in a ladder match just for the sake of having one, and just so we can have a bunch of guys who deserve to be in the card make it. I mean, Kevin Owens just came back and he wasn't in the show. He flat out skipped WrestleMania. Then we get Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre. This really should have been Roman Reigns versus Dean Ambrose, but they were so petty that they didn't want Dean Ambrose involved at WrestleMania because he was going to AEW. They gave Drew McIntyre this super cool story of him beating up all of the Shield members except Roman Reigns, which basically told you that Roman Reigns was winning yet again. This was when Roman Reigns was coming back from leukemia, so this was like the perfect time to make Roman Reigns that babyface, but they never changed him. They just kept his character the exact same way. So because the crowd was tired, they flat out didn't react to this match. It was so dull. No one really cared. They didn't want to boo a guy with leukemia, and they weren't buying Roman Reigns as this type of babyface, so they just didn't react. It is good for Drew McIntyre to be in this marquee match with Roman Reigns, but Drew McIntyre was not quite ready yet, and even he had admitted that this match was good for publicity and getting his name out there, but he was not ready for a match like this. He was ready next year when he wins the WWE Championship. We'll get to that next video. Then we get, oh God, the Elias concert. This was really weird. It was Elias having like a bunch of people on the screen. I'm shocked Ezekiel didn't make a cameo. Elias is playing for the fans. Then, out of nowhere, the doctor of thugonomics, John Cena, comes out. He cuts a promo burying Elias, talking about how Elias only likes playing with himself. He reminds him of his movies because this whole damn thing sucks. He gives Elias the FU, word life. Really cool to see the doctor of thugonomics, but this basically told us that John Cena was not going to fight Kurt Angle in his farewell match. So sad. Your next match, two-time Hall of Famer guest commentator Shawn Michaels. We have Batista versus Triple H in a no-holds-barred match where had Triple H lost, he would have been forced to retire. And we have already done this story before at MetLife Stadium with Brock Lesnar. So them doing this again, it was just, come on. I know why Batista never fought Brock Lesnar. He was a movie star, so I guess for safety reasons, he didn't want to compete against Brock Lesnar because at this point, Brock Lesnar was just beating up everybody, throwing people through Suplex City left and right, so they didn't want to risk that. But this match with Triple H could have been good, but it happened so late in the game, no pun intended. But yeah, they took way too long. Batista has been rumored to have fought Triple H at a WrestleMania. The question was when and where. I personally think it should have happened at WrestleMania 32 if they were going to do this. They just took way too long to finally give us this match. And then they took up 25 minutes. Oh my goodness, this match was just slow. First of all, Batista looked bad. He wasn't really the Batista we know and love today. He hadn't wrestled since 2014, so he was a lot slower then. But Triple H was the one really carrying this match. Plus, wasn't Triple H a heel? going after Becky Lynch, helping Stephanie not have Becky have her moment. He was the authority figure. This authority angle was so stupid, where there were heels and baby faces back to back. But this match with Batista, yeah, Triple H got cheered because Batista just wasn't it anymore. And I love Batista, one of the best in the Ruthless Aggression era. His movies, to an extent, are great. We all say his best movie is Blade Runner 2049, but he is really irrelevant to that movie. And of course, he's Drax, which we all know and love today. This match was just so slow. The only part that I truly remembered out of this match was Triple H removing the nose ring, Triple H with the chain hitting the announce table, making it seem like he hit Batista. But then we look at the camera footage, and this match is not that good. I really wish we didn't get this match. Yes, Batista got his match that he's always wanted to retire on, but it just took away so much, and it definitely took away from Kurt Angle's retirement, which we'll get to next. So the match that pissed me off watching it, Kurt Angle's farewell match. Kurt Angle could have fought so many people. He could have fought Drew McIntyre, who really needed it. Imagine if Drew was the one to retire Kurt Angle. He could have fought AJ Styles. That would have been a cool TNA moment. He could have fought Joe for the US belt. Like, if he can't win the belt, he retires. They could have done so many cool things with Kurt Angle, and instead they focus on Constable Baron Corbin. Remember that awful gimmick? They were so heavily pushing Baron Corbin to your face that he's going to be the next top heel. And then he didn't even have the audacity to dress up like a wrestler. He still had the suit on. He looked stupid. He looked ridiculous. Kurt Angle looking badass, even though this was his farewell match. He was all chunky. His knees weren't working. So this is how you throw Kurt Angle. This match really pissed me off. And I was very upset because, look, Baron Corbin won. He retired Kurt Angle. This could have worked. They tried with the feud with him and Seth Rollins. King Corbin, they tried. He did get better in NXT, and then they brought him back to the main roster, and it led to nothing. They tried so much with Baron Corbin, and then he just could not get over for some reason. The only time, like I said, he got over was in NXT, and then that went nowhere. They brought him back to SmackDown only to get released. So where did this leave Baron Corbin? Like, I deep down wish that at least if they were gonna give it to Baron Corbin, they actually put in effort with the guy, and instead they just shoehorn in him with stupidity, and I just hated this. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I deep down I wish that Kurt Angle just comes back one more time to get this retirement correctly. All right, let's move on from this because I'm just so mad at this. Bobby Lashley versus Finn Balor in a IC title match. It was the Demon Finn Balor. I thought this was fine. I didn't hate it being a squash match at this point. I didn't really care. I was just ready to get it on with the show. This was my favorite Bobby Lashley. Him and Leo Rush honestly is better than him and MVP, if I'm being honest. Leo Rush was just a very good hype man. He was a great wrestler and good on the mic. But Leo Rush, what is wrong with this dude? He just retires 15 times a year. Finn getting his IC title win, good for him. Eventually Bobby Lashley does do better things, but man, this was a terrible time to be a Bobby Lashley fan. Remember him and Lana? Oh, that was bad. Let's just get this show over with. What? We have a dance break with R-Truth Carmella? Skip it. Up to this point, they keep showing footage of New York City, how it looks like right now, and everything is dark. People are asleep. Nobody cares anymore. They were just tired. And it's unfortunate because the next match is your main event, which is Becky Lynch, Ronda Rousey, and Charlotte Flair in a triple threat winner-take-all match. And this match was good. It had some botches. The table spot was disappointing. Ronda Rousey talks a lot of shit in this match. She keeps saying, bitch, bitch, bitch. Tables are for bitches. Charlotte Flair's a bitch. Becky Lynch is a bitch. No. Like Ronda Rousey, this really should have been Ronda Rousey's last appearance because her second run was terrible. At least I'm happy that they got the moment right of Becky Lynch getting her moment after so much work. Becky Lynch was my favorite out of the four horsewomen. She always was, even in her NXT days. I fell in love with her at that NXT Unstoppable match with Sasha Banks. I was very happy that Becky Lynch got this moment. It was supposed to be penciled in Ronda and Charlotte, but then Becky was like red hot over, one of the most over female faces. She was more over than the guys were. So that just tells you how amazing Becky Lynch was. If they got anything right in 2019, it was Becky Lynch. And kudos because this was a great run and again, solid match. I wish that it wasn't taking place at 12:30 a.m. cuz then people would have been excited to be watching this match. At this point they just stuck around because it was the last match. They were here for Becky, but they were really tired. It was a good match, not a great match. We eventually get a great women's main event at WrestleMania, but we'll get to it when we'll get to it. But I was so happy for Becky Lynch to have her moment. I was beyond satisfied with the three main matches, which were Seth and Brock, Kofi, and Daniel Bryan, and the women's match. Those three matches alone made it for me. But the rest of the show was take it or leave it. We had some solid matches in between, and then some matches needed to be squash matches. Side note, I forgot JBO was the guest commentator for Kurt Angle's last match. That tells you how much care they had. I'm going to give it a C minus, and I'm even hesitant to give it a C minus because this had a lot of things that pissed me off. For starters, the length of it. Kurt Angle's retirement was BS. It's heavily carried by the first half of the show and Becky getting her moment. That's what I'll say about this show. Plus, the arena looks terrible. It was practically the Raw set, just outside. Anyways, that's gonna be it. I am done with the one night WrestleManias. It's on to the 2 night WrestleManias, and unfortunately, the next one is the one where nobody attended. So, wish me luck there. Take care, everybody.